few days ago we had this really big problem where we got this pretty substantial leak inside the bus, and it was really just this huge perfect storm of wet weather and all sorts of different things that went on, and it took us forever to figure out what was going on. So I'm gonna tell y'all all about our little massive leak. So basically what happened is when we were doing everything for the ACs and we were cutting all of the holes out on the side of the bus, we had gotten the one on the right here. Actually, you can see our AC unit right there. And so we were cutting out those holes in the side of the bus, and before we got the vent covers on and got it weather stripped, it downpoured. It was a torrential rain downpour. It's like the sky just opened up and it just unleashed. There was almost no warning because it's the summer in Florida, and that's just a thing that happens every once in a while. So a lot of water got into the bus before we were able to kind of cover it and figure out how to stop the water from getting in. And so we knew that that was a water situation. And then on top of that, we have a leaky hatch. We've got two emergency hatches. The back one is totally fine. It never leaks. The front one, we have caulked it, I think 7 times. We've gone up onto the top, we've pulled everything off, we've sealed all of the cracks, and it's like more cracks keep forming and it just continues to leak every time it rains. And in Florida in the summer, that is actually a problem because it rains pretty much every day. So on top of the water coming in through the side of the bus, we also had water leaking in through that top hatch. And there was just water. There was a lot of water. And so we noticed that we had water underneath our floor, kind of in between the actual floor. We've got like a vinyl plank thing down. So we noticed that we had water coming up in between the cracks of the vinyl planks. And it's really sandy where we are, so it was mixing with the sand and creating basically like a mud along all of the seams in the floor. We're like, oh, that's gross and slightly problematic. And then in addition to that, we could see the water leaking down over the stairs. It's like it would start over here, it would kind of meander through the middle of the bus, and then it would flow over here, and eventually it would leak out onto the stairs. And that's partly because right now we're parked at an incline, kind of like that, and it's not massively noticeable, but it is, you know, enough to get the water flowing in a specific direction and all of that kind of stuff. So we knew we had water coming out. I'm like, ooh, that's a problem. If we got underneath the bus, we could see the water dripping from, you know, the cracks in the floor. Because the way the floor is, it's basically like metal slats that are put together. So there are little like hairline seams in between all of them. And so the water was dripping out through those seams, and it was also coming out on top and down the stairs. And so the water was getting out. We weren't really concerned about it sitting and causing a lot of damage or creating a lot of problems for us. And we have coated the floor with a rust protective. So we figured in between that, and it should dry out pretty quickly. We weren't tremendously concerned about there being long-term problems with it or major problems resulting from it. But like a week goes by and we are still noticing water. So we put towels down, you know, we jump all over the bus and kind of try to push it out from on top of the vinyl, you know, so that the towels can kind of soak up everything that we were pushing out. And we waited and we shop vac and, you know, did tons of stuff. We got everything covered, and we figured, well, you know, just to be on the safe side, we should go ahead and tarp the bus, which is why it's so dark back here, because the tarp is huge and covers the windows on both sides. So we've got this emergency hatch up here tarped just to keep the extra water out. So a couple of days go by where we've got the bus tarped, the side of the bus is covered. It hasn't rained in like 2 days. So it's as dry as it's gonna be in Florida. And it's like, it doesn't even matter in terms of the water level. Like, it still seems like exactly the same amount of water coming up through the floorboards and leaking out underneath the bus. And at this point, Mike is like, I think we have a leak. And I was like, no, 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 it's totally fine. There's no way it can be a leak. You know, we redid some plumbing, but we checked all of it when we did it, and so it shouldn't be a problem now. But, you know, so we did another round of shop vacuuming and all of that kind of stuff, and turned the ACs on. which have dehumidifiers in them. And so we left it, we just let it sit for a few hours, we went out and did some stuff, we came back, it should have been dry by that point. There is no reason why after 2 days of no rain, no water getting into the bus, dehumidifiers running, floor mopping, and shop vacuuming going on, that it should not have been dry. And instead, it was like none of that made a difference. It was as much water as it had been. And that's when I was like, all right, I think maybe we do actually have a leak. So we pulled out one of our new cabinets, and this is one that we put kind of underneath the sink. It's right up against the wall, right back here underneath the sink. And so it supports the weight of the countertop, and the PEX pipe that we had coming in to go into the sink was kind of popping out. It was a little bit in the way because the little pantry plastic thing that we had there before didn't go all the way back, and it wasn't a big deal where the PEX pipe was, so it wasn't a big concern. So with that cabinet, it is a full, actual cabinet deep. It's a little bit deeper than your standard cabinet, which we didn't realize at the time when we bought it from the Habitat for Humanity Restore. And so we redid the pipe back there so that it wasn't popping out as much. It was like right back up against the wall. And I guess at some point, maybe when we were putting in the cabinet or we were doing something, we jostled it, or when I crimped the pipes, it wasn't good enough, but it was okay enough that when we turned the water on, we didn't immediately see a leak and therefore assumed everything was fine. But we pulled it out and there was so much water back there. So something in the PEX was leaking. And we actually have to go in and pull out a big hunk of it just to make sure that we don't have a problem further on down, because PEX pipe is flexible. You can cut into it. And so we just need to make sure that we don't have a bigger problem than we think we do. Right now, what we think it is that there's a little corner, like L, juncture where the pipes turn, and one of those, it was leaking from that crimp. And so we are certain that that is a problem. But the more concerning problem is that the rib up above it, the way that our plumbing runs, there are the 2 ribs on the side of the bus. We'll do it this way. There are the 2 ribs on the side of the bus, and our plumbing runs all down here. It doesn't actually ever touch this top rib. And there was water dripping down from the top rib. And at first I was like, oh, maybe that's some of the water that got trapped when the water came in through the hole in the side of the bus, but it only picks up and starts when we actually turn the water on. So if we turn the water off, the leak stops. If we turn the water on, it picks back up again. And so we're not entirely sure how the water is traveling to that rib and dripping down, but we ended up having like a 3-point leak coming down in different parts back underneath the sink. And that was flooding straight down underneath the floor, and then it was moving this way, in accordance to how the bus is situated, and draining out that way. But that's why it never dried out. It just kind of stayed gross. So it took us longer than it should have to notice that we had a bigger problem than just some water got into the bus and was hanging out. And yeah, so we've got some cleaning up to do as a result of it. Some stuff started to mildew down there, so we need to get everything like a really good bleach spray over it just to kill anything that could be living and hanging out and doing whatever. And we had a few bugs that got in and were like, hey, look at this delicious, dark, moist, damp place, and it's so warm and cozy. And so we're taking care of all that. So really, in the grand scheme of things, fairly minor. Not a ton of problems that have resulted from this that we are currently aware of. We don't see any indications of rust or anything major like that. And, our floor can't rot, which is super good. So, anyway, we turned the water off. We shop vacuumed it. We turned the air conditioners on again for the dehumidifying. We left it, and it took maybe 3 hours for it to totally dry up, and we haven't had any issues since then. So, that is the fabulous story of the leak inside the bus. And it's actually the first one that we've had. So far, all of our plumbing has been super sturdy, very good. The biggest thing that I can think of that may have affected this is when we did all of the plumbing, we had the solid crimp rings, and this time around, because the crimp tool, we were borrowing a crimp tool from a family member, and his is like this huge, massive, heavy duty because he's in construction, and so it's like the best PEX crimp tool that you can get. And we got a cheaper one when we redid some stuff when we were in Texas, and the one that we have requires the rings that have the little pinchy bit that kind of tightens it instead of the whole ring that tightens down, and those are not as good. So my guess is it didn't quite get to where it needed to go. It was a little off center and something is just not fully connected, and that's why it was leaking. But anyway, that is pretty much that. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the story of our leak. Yeah, good times. So anyway, that was pretty much that. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more stuff from us. And we will see y'all in our next one. Bye.